Guys, take a look at that. This is what we're making today right here. This is the baked stuffed onion, and it is flat delicious, guys. So I'll tell you what, wait till you give this little goodie a try. You're in for a treat. Howdy folks, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. As you've already seen, it's a delicious dish today. This is a baked stuffed onion. Now this is a dish I did a long time ago, back in 2014 I think it was, and it didn't really come out as a very good video. Great recipe, but you know, back then I was new to YouTube, new to filming myself, and I wasn't very good, I was clumsy. So since then I've had a lot of practice, a lot better equipment, and many improvements to my kitchen. So I'll tell you what, guys, let's take another look at this fabulous recipe as I show you how to make probably one of the best and most ornate side dishes that you'll ever learn how to make, and it also functions well as a main course if you make it right. So guys, let's get in the kitchen, let's take a look at these fabulous ingredients, and let's get busy making the baked stuffed onion. Come on, let's go. Well, there it is, guys. We have all of our ingredients sitting out here. This is very basic and simple. First thing is you're going to have to pick some good onions. Now I would have normally gotten a little bit smaller onion than this. Normally I like one a little bigger than my fist, and this one's substantially larger. So these will work fine. These are a Vidalia onion. And if you're looking for one that's going to be big enough to make an entree size, this is the way you'd want to do it. So you'll know there are certain onions that are really super sweet, and when it comes to yellow onions, the two that are really magnificently sweet that I really recommend are either the Vidalia onion or the Texas 1015, which is incredibly sweet. Something that I learned from my mother. She grew up the daughter of an onion farmer. The flatter they are, the sweeter they are. There you go. There's your little tip for the day. Our filling, what are we going to do to fill these things up? Well, guys, I made these beautiful muffins. Let me open this package up here. I've got right here some corn muffins. These are jalapeno cornbread. I'll try to remember to put the recipe for this down in the links below. Well, not the recipe, but rather the link to the show. Okay, because I have this up on my show also. So we have these beautiful corn muffins. I'm going to be crumbling that up, and I'm going to mix it with the meat off of these. This is a couple of pork ribs that have been mesquite smoked. They are tender and delicate. So I'm going to have this beautiful smoky rib meat mixed with jalapeno cornbread for a stuffing inside of a very sweet onion. And then to top it all off, I'm going to brush the outside with some olive oil. I might or might not, just depending on my mood, I might put a pat of butter on the top of the filling so that butter melts down through that cornbread, flavoring it. And then we're going to cook these things up. Well, guys, this is summertime. Summertime in Texas is hot, okay? So today they have predicted our heat index to be 105 to 109 degrees. And we will be probably around 98 to 102 degrees in temperature. So basically, nobody wants to cook at this time of year because it'll heat the house up. So I'm going to do this out on my grill, okay? This is going to give me an advantage. I'm going to be able to bake these the same way I would in my oven. I'll teach you how to use a grill that way. And the second thing is, I'm going to be able to add smoke, a smoky flavor to the onion, outside of the smoky flavor that was built into the filling of the onion through those ribs that are smoked. Now, I know not everybody has smoked ribs just lying around. let me tell you. This is a great thing to do when you've done some ribs and you might want to set a few aside for this kind of a dish, and that's what I did. Or, here's an option. Go out and purchase one of those small packages of the cocktail sausages, the little short ones, the little smokies, and chop those things down the same way I'm going to cut down the meat on these ribs. That will work really good. It'll be very, very tasty, guys. Truly, on your stuffings, you can use any kind of meat. If you've got beef, lamb, whatever suits you will work in this dish. What you have to make sure of, though, this is absolute, they have to be fully cooked. Whatever meat you put in there needs to be cooked beforehand. Don't put raw meat in this onion, not in the filling. So I'll tell you what, guys, let's get on to prepping this stuff. We're going to make some really good treats here. Come on. Guys, let's go ahead and get our filling prepped first. I have these beautiful ribs here. What I'm going to do is just strip them of their meat, and it comes off easily because these were cooked well. There we go. And I'm going to chop up every bit of this, fat, meat, everything, and get that right down into that filling because it's all flavor, guys, every bit of it. I remember cooking these up. I'll tell you what, if you want some of these ribs, well, that video was not very long ago, guys. So I'll tell you what, it's a recent video in my plays. I'll try to remember, no promises, I'll try to remember to get the recipe link on these ribs down in that description box. So you notice what I'm doing, keeping my fingers back and just allowing the knife to sit point down, and I'm making a chopping motion to work my way through these. If you're wondering why that meat is a little pink, it isn't that it's undercooked. When you're smoking meats, guys, the smoke affects the protein in the meat that causes it to be red or pink, and it preserves it is what it does. So even though something might have been cooked for 5 or 6 hours, like these were, you'll have all of that red in it. And that's just preserved color is all it is. We're just going to get that up in there. Ain't that gorgeous? So we have our rib meat all chopped up and ready to go. Now let's move right on to the next step. Now guys, it's time for us to get started processing these beautiful onions that we have here. You're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need a knife. What we're going to do is we're going to remove the top and the bottom of these, take off some of this papery, thin outer area and get down to the more meaty portion of the onion. Then once we're there, we're going to take something and scoop it out. You can use a plain spoon like this if this is all you have, okay? You just work it out. I'm going to be using a little scoop like this, and I will hollow those out very cleanly with this, and it just makes work very smooth. If you have one of these scoops, that's what they call a disher actually, then that's just a really good way of doing it. Also, another tool that works fabulously well for this is what's called a melon baller. It's a very simple tool that has a simple scoop, a little bit shallower than what you see on this one, on each end usually of a single handle, and one's smaller than the other, but it helps you to make what they call those little melon balls. You've seen them, little watermelon and honeydew and cantaloupe type of balls that they make, and that's the little scoop that they use. Works good in this also. So guys, what we need to do here, as I mentioned, we're going to remove top and bottom, and I'm not going to remove the bottom at first. I'm just going to first take off this top. And there's a reason. There's actually a good reason behind my methodology. I make a very thin score up the side so that I can get to that last layer. You see there, and that won't cook up well at all. It won't do any good for you to have it. So we get that out of our way. I'll be honest with you, it doesn't always quite go that smooth. Let's be straight up here. So there is our onion, ready to have the bottom removed and then hollowed out. And the way we do this is I hollow it out from this side up here. I'm going to make this flat. It's going to set on its natural bottom. I will open this up with my scoop. And the reason I don't cut this off immediately is, as you see, it's weeping juices right now, and it's coming out of the top a little bit. But when you cut an onion, if you cut that root end off, suddenly the juices from the onion will weep out very quickly. They'll just start exuding from the onion quickly from this end, because that's, kind of the way things work in an onion. That's where the juice comes from to begin with. And it comes right back out just as fast. What we need to do is get each one to this exact same stage. I keep them upside down. So if you would, please just do all of your onions the exact same way, and then we'll catch up with the next spot. Sometimes, guys, you'll run into what looks like good quality onion, a thick spot on that thin exterior. Don't worry, you're not really losing anything. That stuff doesn't cook up very well either. Okay, guys, let's get on with prepping these onions out. The next thing I'm going to do, we're going to start by removing that root end. And what I want to do is I want to make my cut on the back side to be as close to equal to this cut. In other words, I don't want it angled and uneven with that. I want this to be nice and straight up and down once I finish cutting this. So I have to look at the other side and see where my cut went and try to match it. Isn't that pretty? Just like that. Now, guys, I have another bowl here, and I'm going to be using that to put what I scoop out of these onions into. I'm not throwing this away. I'm going to be using the part of the onion that I scoop out of this. It'll just be in a different recipe than this one. All I want to do is just start with my scoop, and I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to start carving it out, and I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to go outwards so that the opening is smaller than the size of the cavity inside. So, here we go. There's the first part. Bet you never thought about that, huh? I'm almost there. And it doesn't have to be pretty inside, okay? Because after, nobody's going to see it until it is being cut down to be eaten, and by that point, it won't be noticeable what the inside looks like. So this doesn't have to be like totally pretty, but I do like to at least make that opening kind of uniform if I can. Now I'm going to tell you a little trick, guys. When it comes to working on an onion, if the thing makes you cry, okay, and it does for a lot of people, what's going on there? That juice is coming out of the onion. It's releasing this sulfuric fume as it mixes with the oxygen in the air, and it's reacting with our air, and it's releasing that fume, and it makes us cry, and it's quite uncomfortable. So what I'm going to recommend, the easy way to handle that, is to simply move that fume away from your face. The solution is a fan, okay? That's all it takes. So there we have one onion, beautifully hollowed out, ready to be filled. And I like to leave 2 to 3 layers on that outside if I can. I like a nice meaty thickness there, and that feels like about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick all the way around. I'm going to do all of these that exact same way, so if you would, grab your onions, get your scoop, and go at it, guys. Alright, now let me share with you a reality that sometimes happens when you're doing these. Sometimes your bottom's going to pop out on it, alright? Matters not. Lose no sleep over that, okay? As long as it's a small hole like that, it just doesn't matter. That's going to be in contact with the pan, and all that's going to be is that filler. So it's okay. Our onions are set up and ready to be filled. Now, let's move on to the rest of that filling and get this thing cooking up. Alrighty, folks. Now let's take a look at reality here and kind of compare it to what we've got going on. I've got these that look like they could hold pretty much a whole muffin each, okay? But, well, I don't think, wouldn't that be cute? Anyway, I don't really think I'm going to need a full 3 of these. I think 2 with this meat is probably going to be more than enough. Just going to break them apart. That's right, just crumbled cornbread, guys. And like I said, that's jalapeno cornbread. All I use is the green portion, and it doesn't have a like a hot side to it that way. once you cut out that core on a fresh jalapeno, you've taken out 90% of your heat. So there we go, isn't that nice? So what you're doing here is you're kind of looking for proportion. How does the proportion match? That doesn't look like enough cornbread to my meat, to me. So what I want to do, a half. Okay. Now, to my eyes, the proportion looks a little closer. I was wanting about 1.5 times the amount of cornbread as I have meat. So I get kind of a good mixture. And there we have it, guys. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Also, if you have like some old smoked meats or something, that, like your leftovers, this is a fantastic way to handle those leftovers. All we have to do now is just take this, push it right down in there. We don't worry about what hits the board. Now what I'm doing is pushing this down in there fairly tight. I want a good filling on this. I want there to be plenty of it. And in a moment, we're going to use the rest of this to get this to kind of heap over the top. Don't hold these in your hand to do this. You'll push the bottom out of the oven, out of the onion. Keep them on a flat surface. Okay guys, I've placed it on a little pan, and this is important. You're going to want something that you can put it in the heat and take it back out of the heat on, because sometimes they'll stick a little bit. You can use a little bit of oil on the pan to prevent that. In a moment, we're going to oil the outside of this onion, and that way it doesn't dry out in the heat. So that's going to be our next step. Okay guys, I'm out here with my grill now, and I'm getting my smoker tray ready. Now what I'm doing is I'm just putting some wood chips right down on this. Guys, if you don't have a smoker's tray, let me tell you, you can make a smoker's tray. All you have to do is take a piece of foil, put your wood chips on top of that foil, wrap them up, poke holes in the foil, and bam, you've got a smoker tray. What these things do is they just allow wood to smolder without flaring up too much. As I'm cooking up these onions, I'm going to have just 1 or 2 burners on. We're going to have this about 400 degrees. Don't put your onions directly over the heat, and I'm not going to start the smoker tray immediately. I'll smoke the onions late in the cook. Put the onions either to the side of where you have hot burners or up here on the upper rack. Now guys, I've just turned on 1 burner to get this heated up to cook our onions, and I will check my temperature on the temperature gauge on the grill, and as long as it's an approximate 400, it'll do fine. Okay guys, it is time that we take care of making sure our onions don't get dried out as we're cooking them. The approach here is the same approach that I do on a lot of stuff. Oil helps to provide a surface that moisture doesn't like to go through, okay? And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to use a little olive oil. I'm just going to pour it up in my little dish here. This doesn't take a whole lot. Now, with a basting brush, dip down in the olive oil. I'm just going to gently go over the outside of these and give them a good coat. And what that does, it's going to allow it to hold in that moisture. One last thing I want to do on these onions, and this is just a nice little finishing touch. I'm going to put a pat of butter on the top of each one of these. That way, as they hit that heat, that butter is going to melt. It's going to flow down through there and kind of penetrate and flow out through all of that core ingredient, through all the stuffings there. How's that for hooking them up? There we go. I do believe my onions are ready to hit the heat, folks. That grill is heating up. When it's at 400 degrees, these are going on out there. Okay guys, grill is hot. The onions go up in there, and we are up and cooking. And there you go guys, I have brought those in. They are beautifully smoked and just absolutely delicious. Now, how do you know when these things are ready? Well, onions are pretty firm, so you just have to put something into it, and if it goes in easily, like a toothpick or a knife, then it's done. And that went in easily, so guess what? It's done. Now guys, that right there If you're looking to take the humble onion and turn him into something special, do something like this. You're talking about a very, very special way of handling an onion. It's no longer boring. It's no longer just same old. So I'll tell you what, let's take a look at what this little guy looks like inside and give it a taste. First, I want to just simply, as gently as I can, open him up to allow you guys to kind of see what's going on right inside. Man, that is pretty. So guys, take a look at that. Isn't that the coolest thing? How to do an onion. Oh, that's called the extra wow factor right there. We've taken a simple onion and a few basic other items and taken that onion from down here, humble and simple, and brought it way up high. Wow. Let's take a little of this guy. Oh man, let me tell you guys, the onion is sugary sweet. Beautiful contrast behind it with the flavor of that rib meat, that smoked rib meat. And the cornbread with a jalapeno. It makes this beautiful combination of flavors. The butter in the background, it just stands out and it's wonderful. Guys, you really need to try these recipes. They're fantastic. Beautiful recipe. It needs to be in your recipe book. Everybody should have this one. And I would like to say thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today for this episode. Thank you to my subscribers. Guys, I really appreciate you. To those of you that write in on a regular basis, dudes, I really appreciate you doing that. Thank you for filling up my comments boxes. Please add some more if you'd like. And hey, if you're not used to writing in, please do. You'll be surprised. I might just answer you. If you would, please subscribe. If you would, please share my videos and also click that like button. That helps me a lot. Guys, one other thing I would ask of you, and that is to please have a good day. Bye-bye.